Hello everyone. This is the first season of this manhwa. It took me a long time to create this video due to the poor translation. If you want me to continue, please like the video and subscribe. I'll continue this series once we reach 200 likes on this video. Now, I'll leave you with the video. Enjoy! The morning sun, a relentless intruder, filtered through the window blinds, casting a bright intrusion onto the peaceful scene of the sleeping man. The blaring alarm jolted him awake. Slowly opening his eyes, he was taken aback to find peculiar red characters inscribed on the ceiling and walls, cautioning, "Don't let them know that you can see them." As he perspired and puzzled over the bizarre scene, questions about its origin and the enigmatic writer filled his mind. In the midst of his bewilderment, the red characters gradually faded away, disappearing entirely. Doubt crept in as he questioned if he was half asleep, dreaming, or hallucinating, rubbing his eyes for clarity. A swift survey of his surroundings revealed he wasn't in his bedroom. Abruptly, a surge of pain coursed through his body. His realization deepened as he came to grips with the cross-dimensional shift into another's body. The merging memories painted a vivid contrast between their lives, him, an orphan securing a spot in a prestigious university, and the original owner, his doppelganger, choosing a divergent path by dropping out of high school and entering the realm of real estate sales. As he contemplated the blood-written characters and the absence of such strangeness in the original body owner's memories, a feminine voice startled him. An astonishing woman, elegantly clad in a white nightie, leaned against the room's door. "Honey, it's time for breakfast," she told him. Stunned by the revelation of his marriage in this unfamiliar world, she gracefully took a seat beside him. Her beautiful smile illuminated the room as she gently reminded him that it was time for breakfast. Amid the surreal circumstances, a sense of gratitude washed over him. The bewildering experience had, unexpectedly, led him to the discovery of a beautiful and kind wife. Contemplating what term of endearment to use, wife, lady, or sweetheart, he decided on addressing her by name. His quest to find her name within his memories, however, turned into a shocking revelation. Despite her claim to be his wife, there was no trace of her in the recollections of the original body's owner. A sense of bewilderment enveloped him as he grappled with the disconnect between the woman sitting beside him and the missing pieces in the puzzle of his memories. A sudden change swept across her countenance, the once serene expression now replaced by something disconcerting. She locked eyes with him, her gaze unwavering, seemingly delving into the depths of his soul. Oblivious to a fly landing in her eye, she maintained the intense stare. Tentatively, he broke the silence, posing the inquiry that hung in the air, asking her who she truly was. In a chilling instant, his once beautiful wife metamorphosed into a demonic creature, her voice adopting a monstrous tone as she questioned his ability to see her. Terror gripped his chest, cold sweat forming on his forehead, and overwhelming vulnerability rendering him immobile. Before him stood a nightmarish figure with red eyes, a wide mouth brimming with sharp teeth, and elongated claws, releasing a piercing shriek. In a gruesome turn of events, she bit off his head, extinguishing his life instantly. Abruptly awakened, wide-eyed and terror-stricken, his heart raced in the midst of a chilling sense of unease lingering in the room. Profusely sweating, he grappled with the unfolding mystery, questioning if he was dead or trapped within a dream. To his surprise, the same red characters adorned the ceiling once more. Once again, they began to fade out, gradually disappearing before his eyes. Realizing it wasn't a dream, he trembled with fear, contemplating the significance of the characters. Could they be a hint, urging him to act as if he were blind? Yet, conflicting with his memories, the original body owner wasn't blind. Moreover, the recollections painted a picture of a solitary existence, devoid of a wife and absent of any unusual activities. The revelation struck, the characters were a message, warning him not to let his wife know he could see her. As if on cue, his wife entered the room, once again inviting him to breakfast. Armed with this newfound knowledge, he chose to ignore her this time. Seated on the edge of the bed, he stared at the ground, shivering with fear. Ignoring her seemed like a survival strategy, but to his surprise, she sat on the ground in front of him, locking eyes and uttering her familiar phrase. "Honey, you're awake. It's time for breakfast." Deep inside, he recognized that any unplanned move could result in instant danger. In a chilling moment, her head twisted 180 degrees, jolting him with the sudden move. Observing his reaction, she discerned that he could see her, leading to another fatal outcome. Upon waking once more, pain and anger engulfed him. The lingering question persisted, was this a death reset or an endless loop? Did each demise usher him back to the starting point, akin to a save point in a video game? While sitting on his bed, he was wondering about his wife's actions. He just lowered his head and didn't look at her. She, on the other hand, didn't let him alone and came near him. It's as if she wanted to confirm whether he could see her or not to kill him again. In a bid to divert his attention, he reached for his phone, holding it close as he immersed himself in watching a streamer. His so-called wife re-entered the room, questioning why he was watching another girl and if he no longer liked her. Clenching his teeth in fear, he feigned ignorance, pretending she didn't exist, and continued watching his phone. In a sudden revelation, she confronted him about his eyesight, expressing awareness that he wasn't nearsighted. Though initially shocked, he managed to calm himself, resuming the activity on his phone. However, the screen unfolded a perplexing sight: his wife, lying on the bed, addressing him through the device. "Honey, do I look good?" He hastily jumped from his bed and threw the phone away. His body quivered with fear as he shrank back, visibly shaken by what he had just witnessed on his phone. Glancing back, he saw his monstrous wife behind him. Her chilling monster's voice echoed, exclaiming, "You can see me," sending shivers through the air. He turned towards her, ready to deliver a punch on her. He exclaimed with anger that he can see her. She dodged his punch with a swift move and bit his arm off. "By now, I think we all know what will happen next." He kept dying one time after another. One time he tried to escape from the house but he couldn't. After that he decided to surrender. My wife is so nice. That's right, I can see you, go ahead and eat." Death continued. Each time he died he received some of the original body's memories and gained some understanding of what kind of world is this. After the 18th death, a surge of questions enveloped him: why the continuous cycle of dying and resetting, who wrote the bloody text on the ceiling, and why it vanished after being seen. The mysterious nature of these occurrences fueled his anger, prompting a vow to confront his wife. Filled with rage, he declared his intent to end the relentless cycle. No one could kill him 18 times without facing consequences. As she entered the room again, beckoning him to wake up and join her for breakfast, he was prepared this time. Observing a pattern of her never making physical contact, he stood before her. Surprising him with a provocative question, she asked if he wanted to eat her first. Unfazed, he continued to ignore her, prompting the familiar inquiry, "Can you see me?" To her astonishment, he paid her no attention, walking right through her. The revelation dawned: she could only act when certain he could see her. Determined to break the pattern, he proceeded to the kitchen, preparing breakfast while steadfastly ignoring her. Seated at the table to enjoy his meal, she persisted, her face appearing on the table surface, questioning why he wasn't eating the breakfast she had supposedly made. Undeterred, he continued to disregard her, making his way to the apartment exit. As he grasped the door handle, her eyes manifested on it in a last attempt to draw his attention. Unmoved, he left the apartment, finally breaking free from her eerie influence. Stepping outside, he was met with a landscape of profound desolation, an eerie manifestation of chaos replacing the familiar. The haunting scene left him questioning if this was a form of hell. Suddenly, a fit of hysterical laughter overcame him as he remarked on the fascinating nature of this altered world. Simultaneously, a wave of disgust surged within him, compelling him to uncontrollably vomit in response to the unsettling reality he now faced. Out of nowhere, a cute little girl materialized, expressing concern about his well-being and inquiring if he was sick. Reassuring her that he was fine, he marveled at the little girl's cuteness, briefly contemplating the idea of having such an adorable daughter. The atmosphere abruptly shifted as the innocent facade vanished, revealing a demonic entity. Exclaiming, "You can see me," it brandished a large sword, ready to strike. In the midst of the surreal encounter, he burst into maniacal laughter, proclaiming the unfolding events as truly fascinating. While pointing at the monstrous entity, he expressed a newfound preference for his current self, citing the lack of future burdens when dealing with such creatures. Embracing his newfound dark resolve, he boldly declared his intent to eliminate the eerie entities in this world, relishing the excitement of their demise. However, his proclamation was abruptly cut short as the monsters swiftly retaliated, smashing him and extinguishing his life in an instant. Upon restarting, he found himself sitting on a bench in a park. Observing his surroundings for half a day, he discerned that this world was rife with peculiarities. One type of strangeness had a bizarre appearance but lacked the ability to affect anything despite their aggressiveness. Another type, indistinguishable from humans, disguised themselves as close friends and family members. Engaging their targets in conversation, they waited for a response before making their move, just like his lovely wife. Even though ordinary people don't notice their presence at all, they still engage in role-playing with someone. But what is this all for? Could it be that the eerie attempting to blend into human life? Checking his phone, Fang Xiu discovered a stern message from his boss Wu Dehai in the workgroup. It scolded him for being absent in the afternoon and questioned his punctuality, hinting at potential consequences for his bonus and commission. This message triggered Fang Xiu's recollection that the original owner had sold a villa 6 months ago, and he was yet to receive his due commission. In response to his boss's message, Fang Xiu declared his resignation and promised to settle the commission for the last Bailu villa later at the sales office. Hastening on his bicycle, he arrived only to find the once familiar surroundings strangely altered. As he approached the building entrance, his phone rang. It was his coworker inquiring about his well-being and expressing concern as Fang Xiu hadn't answered calls that day. Fang Xiu assured him that everything was fine and asked if they were currently at the office. His friend warned him about the boss's anger, leading to an unexpected overtime request. Fang Xiu assured his friend he'd arrive soon and ended the call. As he gazed at the building in front of him, he discovered the entire Bailu Academy had transformed into a mental hospital. While pondering the eeriness of this unexpected transformation, Fang Xiu accidentally collided with an invisible obstacle. Reacting quickly, he extended his hands to assess the situation and realized, to his embarrassment, that he had inadvertently touched a young woman. With a swift motion, the girl's hand connected with the man's cheek, leaving a resonating slap that echoed in the tense silence. She scornfully referred to him as a stinkin' rascal and sternly warned him that she would file a complaint against his inappropriate behavior. Stunned by the forceful slap, he snapped back to reality, only to discover himself standing against the gates of Bailu Academy. Confused and horrified by the sudden shift, he blinked and, to his astonishment, found himself once more in front of the mental hospital. A perplexed thought crossed his mind. What is going on? Wasn't Bailu Academy just right in front of me? Shaken and hesitant, Fang Xiu extended his hand towards the hospital wall in front of him. To his bewilderment, his hand effortlessly passed through the wall as if it didn't exist. Intrigued and unsettled, he questioned in his mind why he could see the mental hospital but couldn't physically touch its form. Could it be like those eerie things that can only act when they get a response? Intrigued by the inexplicable, Fang Xiu hesitantly reached out to the hospital wall. To his surprise, his hand passed through it as if encountering a hologram. In an abrupt twist, he found himself inside the mental hospital. Navigating the hospital corridors, Fang Xiu discovered the main hall, cafeteria, restroom, and activity room all eerily empty. However, as he entered the ward area, an unsettling scent of blood permeated the air, raising his senses on edge. Persistently moving through the hospital's rooms, Fang Xiu encountered a peculiar woman who addressed him as Big Brother, but he chose to ignore her. In the next room, a strange four-eyed monster caught his eye, yet he strolled past it without hesitation. Continuing his journey, he faced a myriad of bizarre phenomena. Deep within, Fang Xiu maintained a calm demeanor in the presence of these unsettling ghosts, drawing strength from his wife's remarkable feat of 18 consecutive kills, which made navigating through the eerie encounters surprisingly manageable for him. In the midst of his stroll, scattered papers caught his attention, sparking a curiosity about their potential insights into the place. One particular paper, labeled number 128, Experimental Body, to transform into something strange, intrigued him. The revelation within prompted contemplation, leading him to ponder whether the apparitions haunting the wards were once human. Attempting to seize one of the papers, Fang Xiu found them elusive, discovering they were mere illusions. As he crouched down, an unsettling sensation swept through him. The nurse's hair, suspended from the ceiling, grazed his head. Though caught off guard, Fang Xiu maintained composure, skillfully feigning ignorance to the ethereal presence. Thoughts racing, he reasoned that if clues were found in the office, there likely existed more scattered elsewhere. Convinced that the director's office held the key to unraveling the mysteries and answering his looming questions. Entering a different section of the mental hospital, he discerned an unexpected overlap with the sales building. Recognizing the absence of the director's office on the first floor, he made the decision to ascend the stairs, driven by the realization that the elusive answers he sought might be awaiting discovery on the upper levels. Ascending to the second floor, Fang Xiu unexpectedly encountered his friend Zhao Hao and his irate former boss, Wu Dehai, who sternly questioned his audacity to show up after being fired. Unfazed, Fang Xiu, seemingly oblivious to Dehai's words, brushed them aside, resolutely continuing his ascent to the third floor. Incensed by Fang Xiu's disregard, Wu Dehai fumed, "How dare you push me? Have you lost your mind, Fang Xiu? Turning to Zhao Hao, he demanded assistance, urging him to join in stopping Fang Xiu's progress through the building. On the third floor, Fang Xiu's quest reached fruition as he stumbled upon what he sought, the director's office. Positioned on the third floor, Fang Xiu found himself standing in front of a door, his hand reaching out to grasp the doorknob. From behind, Wu Dehai's voice echoed, imploring him to stop. Despite the pleas, Fang Xiu remained indifferent to Wu Dehai's warnings and proceeded to open the door without a second thought. Surprise registered on his face as he stumbled upon two employees inside, entangled in intimate activities. The girl was identified as Fei Fei, and the man as Wang Xiao. Amid hastily pulling up his pants, Wang Xiao erupted in anger, shouting furiously, "Are you insane? Who the hell let you in?" Undeterred, Fang Xiu pressed forward, seizing Fei Fei by the hand. Witnessing this, his friend hurried towards them, while Fei Fei protested, shouting for him to let her go and claiming that he was causing her pain. Simultaneously, Wang Xiao exclaimed in outrage, questioning how Fang Xiu dared to touch her. Dismissing her with a swift gesture, Fang Xiu exclaimed about her being noisy and annoying. However, it soon became apparent that his action was aimed at reaching for the paper on the bench behind her. As Fang Xiu gazed at the paper, a subtle grin crept across his face. Inwardly, he acknowledged that a significant secret lay concealed within the confines of this mental hospital. The contents of the paper revealed a mysterious message. As a person chosen by destiny, do you want to know the truth of this world? Do you want to unravel the secrets of what ghosts truly are? You've ventured this far, undoubtedly burdened with questions. Fear not, my friend. I've entrusted everything to the Green Mountain Mental Hospital, Building C, Room 520. All the answers you seek are there. Embark on the journey to discover the truth. When you unravel the mysteries, it will mark the moment for you to make a choice. Trust your heart and embrace the gift of destiny. The letter, signed by someone named Zhou Qingfeng, hinted at his likely role as the director of the Green Mountain Mental Hospital. Fang Xiu found himself pondering over the recipient of this mysterious letter. A nagging thought lingered. Did Zhou Qingfeng already anticipate his arrival? With these questions swirling in his mind, Fang Xiu left the room. Suddenly, a power outage plunged the surroundings into complete darkness. Fei Fei voiced her fear, expressing discomfort in the pitch-black environment. Wang Xiao swiftly directed Wu Dehai to handle the situation, a responsibility to which Wu Dehai readily agreed. Guided by the light from their phone flashlights, they navigated their way out of the dark room. As they emerged, Fang Xiu was met with the startling revelation that the Green Mountain Mental Hospital had vanished. Fei Fei, gripped by fear from the darkness, sought solace. Meanwhile, Wang Xiao requested Wu Dehai to pass him the phone, only to be informed by Wu Dehai that there was no signal. With confidence, Wang Xiao asserted that, given his status and position, he could potentially access more information about the world's secrets than he could imagine. Continuing his explanation, Wang Xiao pointed out the lack of phone signal and the suppression of light. If he wasn't mistaken, he concluded that these signs indicated a distinct possibility. They might have entered the realm of the strange. Upon hearing this revelation, a mischievous grin spread across Fang Xiu's face. Seated in front of his computer, one of the employees grew irritated as he hadn't had a chance to save his work, realizing he now had to work overtime to recreate the report. In response, Wu Dehai sternly ordered him to cease complaining and instead investigate whether there was an issue with the circuit breaker. On the staircase, the security guard inquired about the well-being of the employees. One of them assured him that physically everyone was fine, but their mood was dampened by the prospect of working overtime. In response, the security guard expressed understanding and volunteered to check if there was a circuit breaker issue. In the office, a blanket of darkness engulfed everyone. Amidst the obscurity, one person fumbled to retrieve her fallen phone. After successfully locating it and activating the flashlight, she expressed surprise at its unusually dim glow. A concerned colleague suggested wiping the phone's flashlight, speculating that dust might be causing the issue. Frustrated, she retorted that she had already wiped it, but to no avail. Fang Xiu remarked that the flashlight on his phone also exhibited a dim glow. Another employee chimed in, noting the same issue with his flashlight. In the midst of the dimly lit confusion, a female employee directed her inquiry to Wang Xiao, seeking clarification about his mention of the realm of the strange. Another person inquired if the conversation alluded to ghosts, prompting the girl to express disbelief, questioning the existence of ghosts in the world. Abruptly, Wang Xiao erupted in anger, shouting, "Everyone, be quiet." He commanded silence and urged everyone to remain calm, emphasizing the importance of listening carefully to what he was about to say if they desired to survive. His forceful statement left everyone in stunned silence. Wang Xiao continued, revealing that the realm of the strange referred to the domain of ghosts, an alternate dimension that belonged to these spectral entities. His words hung in the air, leaving everyone once again rendered speechless by the eerie revelation. Breaking the silence, one person inquired about security guard Zhao's whereabouts. Another responded, mentioning that he had gone to inspect the circuit breaker and had not returned yet. Wang Xiao pressed on, cautioning that in the realm of the strange, ordinary people must exercise extreme care and refrain from violating the rules set by the ghosts, otherwise, the consequences could be as dire as seeking death. Faced with the unsettling reality, Wu Dehai sought guidance, asking Wang Xiao what their next course of action should be. Wang Xiao responded that their immediate priority was to find a way to escape this ominous realm, emphasizing the imminent danger posed by the ghosts. His grave words left everyone in stunned silence, gripped by fear. Suddenly, Fang Xiu, attuned to something familiar in the surroundings, declared the presence of a nearby ghost, sending shivers through the already frightened group. Fear etched on his face. One of the employees anxiously questioned Fang Xiu about his statement and urged him to point out the ghost. However, another person dismissed the notion, advising Fang Xiu not to joke during such a tense situation and accusing him of trying to frighten everyone. In the midst of this skepticism, a chilling reality unfolded as one of the employees was ensnared by ghostly tentacles, struggling in a desperate attempt to break free before ultimately vanishing. Fang Xiu somberly informed them that Wang Xiaoli had disappeared. The girl beside her, initially disbelieving, was shocked by the revelation. "You're talking nonsense. Wang Xiaoli was right next to me," she exclaimed. Frantically searching for her friend and finding her spot empty, she began calling out to Xiaoli, desperately urging her to respond. However, the ominous silence persisted. Turning to Fang Xiu, Wang Xiao inquired if he had caught a glimpse of what the ghost looked like. Remaining composed, Fang Xiu replied with a calm tone, stating that his view was obstructed, and he did not witness the appearance of the ghosts. He could only confirm seeing Wang Xiaoli disappearing without any further details about the entity responsible. As one of the employees fell victim to the ghosts, a sense of panic overtook the group. One employee questioned Fang Xiu's calm demeanor in the face of the supernatural events unfolding, while another speculated that he might be abnormal, perhaps even possessed by the ghosts. Wang Xiao, observing Fang Xiu's apparent lack of fear, asked directly if he was a spirit master, puzzled by his composure in the presence of the threatening ghosts. The revelation that Fang Xiu was unfamiliar with the term spirit master left Wang Xiao perplexed. He couldn't comprehend how Fang Xiu could maintain calm composure in the presence of the ghosts despite not being acquainted with the concept of a spirit master. Wang Xiao took it upon himself to explain that a spirit master is someone with the ability to control their spiritual essence. Drawing from personal knowledge, he mentioned that his cousin happened to be a spirit master. Emphasizing the potential significance of having a spirit master in their midst, Wang Xiao expressed the belief that breaking free from their current predicament would be considerably easier with such an individual among them. Fang Xiu, wearing a sinister smile, posed a question that caught Wang Xiao off guard. How could one become a spirit master? Wang Xiao, taken aback by Fang Xiu's sharp inquiries amidst the eerie circumstances, pondered the possibility that Fang Xiu might hold the key to their escape from the realm of the strange. Considering his cousin's insights, Wang Xiao explained to Fang Xiu that, according to his cousin, becoming a spirit master involved harnessing the power of ghosts and meeting two conditions simultaneously. The first involved undergoing a baptism of great terror, teetering on the edge between life and death, which would trigger intense emotional turmoil. The second condition was to come into direct contact with the ghosts, allowing their power to infiltrate one's soul. As Fang Xiu reflected, gazing at his hands, he contemplated the fact that despite the numerous encounters with death after crossing over, he had never truly come into contact with the ghosts. His wife, the ones all over the streets, and the ghosts in the mental hospital, as long as he didn't respond to them, they are just illusions from another dimension, and that doesn't count as contact. The realization struck Fang Xiu that the ghosts, once concealed in the darkness around them, had now crossed over into reality. Unlike before, these ghosts could inflict harm without the necessity of being seen. The prospect of gaining the ability to eliminate them through direct contact excited Fang Xiu. However, his train of thought was abruptly interrupted by a scream from one of his colleagues. Inquiring about the situation, she exclaimed that Jiao Liang was missing, prompting her to call out his name in a desperate attempt to locate him. Infuriated by her actions, Wang Xiao erupted in anger, ordering her to shut up immediately or risk attracting the attention of the ghosts. Fei Fei, her eyes filled with tears, turned to him for guidance, expressing her fear of disappearing. In response, Wang Xiao, still enraged, exclaimed, questioning why she was even asking him such a thing. Interrupting the heated exchange, Fang Xiu interjected with a chilling observation. He stated that there seemed to be a pattern, a 2 to 3 minute interval between each person's disappearance. He pointed out that after 3 minutes of security guard Zhao's disappearance, Wang Sheli vanished. Following this, after an additional 2 minutes, Zhao Liang disappeared. Deducting from this unsettling pattern, Fang Xiu speculated that, unless interrupted, someone else would likely disappear in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Fang Xiu's revelation left the group in shocked silence. Undeterred, Fang Xiu turned away and began walking. His friend, alarmed by his actions, questioned him. "Xiu, are you trying to get killed?" Fang Xiu glanced back, shaking his head, and responded, "Of course not. I'm looking for a way out. Did you expect me to stand here and wait for my doom?" Furious, Wang Xiao ordered Fang Xiu to stop and insisted that he should stay with the group, following his orders. Undeterred, Fang Xiu continued forward, reminding him that there were only 8 of them left. He emphasized that if they didn't take action, everyone would likely be wiped out in about 20 minutes. Wang Xiao, even angrier than before, exclaimed that Fang Xiu was just an ordinary person who knew nothing. In a sudden and chilling turn, Fang Xiu locked eyes with Wang Xiao, his gaze filled with murderous intent. He warned Wang Xiao that if he uttered one more word, he would kill him before the ghosts could. This threat left Wang Xiao horrified and shocked. Fang Xiu proceeded through the dark corridor, with Zhao Hao following closely behind, the corridor stretching into darkness without revealing the expected descent of stairs. An air of unease settled over Zhao Hao, his trembling form huddled behind Fang Xiu, seeking comfort like a frightened bird clinging to a perch. Fang Xiu, however, maintained his composure. "Brother Xiu, something is wrong. Why haven't we reached the stairs yet?" Zhao Hao's voice quivered with anxiety. "Shush, be quiet." Fang Xiu hushed him. Abruptly halting, Fang Xiu fixated his gaze on the depths of the corridor. A faint green light materialized at the end. Fang Xiu's frown deepened as he recognized the light. This light was identical to the one in Green Mountain Mental Hospital. An intriguing suspicion formed in Fang Xiu's mind, urging him to move towards the mysterious green light. Stepping into it completely, he found himself in a narrow, dilapidated corridor. Darkness and bloodstains adorned the ceiling and walls. It dawned on him, Green Mountain Mental Hospital. "Xiu, brother, am I hallucinating? Where is this? Shouldn't we be in the company? Why does this place look like a hospital in a horror movie?" Zhao Hao's terrified voice echoed from behind Fang Xiu. Fang Xiu's heart skipped a beat. Zhao Hao could see the mental hospital too. Fang Xiu extended his hand, touching the surrounding walls, feeling a cold and rough texture. His pupils contracted. He had entered the mental hospital, and this time it wasn't an illusion but a tangible reality. Could it be that the mental hospital, like the peculiar living entities, materializes under specific conditions, breaking into the fabric of reality? Fang Xiu speculated that the previous holographic-like mental hospital had merged with reality, and the sales office was now embedded within it, as if swallowed by its eerie existence. No wonder he couldn't see the mental hospital before, he was already within it. The two continued forward and soon came across 2 pools of blood not far from the corridor. Gazing at the recognizable clothes, Fang Xiu understood that these were his colleagues and security guards who had disappeared earlier. Observing the gruesome scene, Fang Xiu instantly comprehended the reason for the 3-minute interval between the man's disappearances and the 2-minute interval for women. The female colleagues in the sales office possessed less flesh compared to their male counterparts. Eating a male colleague took approximately 3 minutes, while it only took about 2 minutes to consume a female colleague. "Brother Xiu." They were all eaten by ghosts. Zhao Hao's face turned pale, trembling with fear. Ignoring Zhao Hao's exclamation, Fang Xiu closely examined the shredded clothes. The cuts were remarkably clean, indicative of a sharp blade. Recalling the peculiar occurrences he witnessed in Green Mountain Mental Hospital earlier, the image of the female doctor wielding a scalpel flashed in his mind. At that moment, dense footsteps echoed from behind Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao. Turning around, they saw Wang Xiao and his group emerging from the dark corridor. "My God, what is this place? Shouldn't this be a sales office? This is like a hospital." Wang Xiao and the others exclaimed in shock, their eyes filled with panic and disbelief. Fang Xiu, Zhao Hao, did you two find anything? Did you see Xiao Zhao and Xiao Li? Manager Wu Dehai asked with a trembling voice. Before Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao could respond, Manager Wu Dehai noticed the blood on the ground, and the sight left him shocked and terrified. Blood. So much blood. Li Feifei couldn't help but scream. This is Xiao Zhao and Xiao Li's clothes. Wang Xiao exclaimed in shock. Young Master Wang, come on, let's get out of here. I want to go home, Li Feifei cried in fear, clutching Wang Xiao's arm and pleading. Wang Xiao snapped back to reality. Yes, hurry up, he urged. Then he asked Fang Xiu to lead the way. Glancing at his phone, Fang Xiu stated, time's up. What do you mean by that? Li Feifei instinctively asked. Wang Xiao regained his composure. His expression changed instantly as he hastily raised his left hand, scrutinizing the expensive watch on his wrist. An immediate shock washed over everyone, rendering them pale. At that moment, a clicking sound echoed behind them. The sound was sharp, resembling the turning of joints. As everyone turned to look back, their souls froze in an instant. They witnessed a female doctor in a white coat with disheveled hair, long limbs resembling spiders, hanging upside down from the ceiling of the corridor. A wordless fear began to spread like a tidal wave. The female doctor locked her gaze on everyone, and in the next second, her limbs swayed wildly as she crawled towards them like a humanoid spider. Li Feifei's scream served as a signal for a chaotic frenzy, with everyone running in sheer panic. This time, there was no need for anyone to lead the way. They were driven by an instinctual urge to escape. In the chaos, Li Feifei was pushed to the ground. Grabbing Wang Xiao's clothes from behind, she pleaded for him to save her. However, in the face of danger, Wang Xiao was the first to abandon her and run. Wang Xiao's swift reaction allowed him to escape first, rushing to the front. Yet, Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao did not join the fleeing crowd. Zhao Hao was simply dumbfounded, while Fang Xiu remained observant. As Fang Xiu had speculated, the assailant was indeed the female doctor he had encountered in the mental hospital before. Wait for me. Young Master Wang. Don't leave me behind. Li Feifei shouted from the ground, her voice filled with horror. Help me, she pleaded with Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao. These were the only two individuals remaining in the corridor. As Li Feifei pleaded desperately for their help, the doctor pressed her surgical knife against Feifei's neck. Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao remained rooted to the spot, paralyzed by fear, their bodies refusing to respond as they watched in horror as Li Feifei was mercilessly slaughtered before their very eyes. Zhao Hao's terror intensified as the gruesome scene unfolded before him, a ghost mercilessly ending a human life. It was an unfamiliar and chilling sight, one that sent shivers down his spine. Meanwhile, the female doctor began to skillfully dismember Feifei's body with precise and methodical techniques. Fang Xiu, observing the doctor's expertise, deduced that she must have performed numerous surgeries during her time alive in the mental hospital, honing her skills to a disturbing degree. Fang Xiu couldn't help but notice the doctor's intense focus on her work, seemingly oblivious to his and Zhao Hao's presence. Surgeons typically concentrate on one patient at a time, making it nearly impossible to perform surgery on multiple patients simultaneously. As the doctor finished her surgical procedure, she licked the blood from the surgical knife and tucked it into her chest before turning her attention to devouring Feifei's remains. This macabre display left Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao stunned. However, in a bold move that shocked Zhao Hao, Fang Xiu began to walk towards the doctor. Standing near the ghostly doctor as she indulged in Feifei's remains, Fang Xiu felt a surge of tension coursing through him. His fists clenched, eyes narrowed, he prepared to strike. With all his might, he delivered a punch, only to realize that her body was as solid as steel. Examining his bloody fist, Fang Xiu contemplated the overwhelming power of the ghost. In the face of such beings, humans seemed insignificant, like tiny ants. It dawned on him that perhaps by becoming a spiritualist, he could alter this dire situation. Monitoring Fang Xiu's actions, Zhao Hao grew increasingly anxious, urging him to flee for their lives. However, Fang Xiu seemed oblivious to his pleas, calmly stating that the ghost only targets one person at a time and is currently preoccupied with its meal. He reassured Zhao Hao that they were safe for the moment. With a worried and sweaty face, Zhao Hao observed that the ghost seemed almost finished with Feifei. Fang Xiu, maintaining his composure, remarked that Feifei still had plenty of flesh left in certain parts of her body, indicating that the ghost's meal could last for at least 3 more minutes or longer. He advised Zhao Hao not to rush. Disgusted by Fang Xiu's cold analysis, Zhao Hao couldn't contain his revulsion and began vomiting uncontrollably. Maintaining his calm demeanor even as Zhao Hao vomited, Fang Xiu continued his analysis. He referenced Wang Xiao's mention that becoming a spiritualist required allowing the power of ghosts to infect one's soul. In this haunted domain, the most concentrated ghostly power naturally emanated from the ghosts themselves, and physical contact would likely lead to a quicker infection. With this in mind, Fang Xiu focused his attention on the female Dr. Ghost's thigh. He boldly slapped her, then began touching her thigh while crouching near her, closing one eye in anticipation of her reaction. However, it became apparent that she paid him no attention whatsoever. Zhao Hao was dumbfounded, his hands clutching his head in disbelief. He had always considered himself bold, having watched adult movies, but the audacity of Fang Xiu's actions with ghosts caught him completely off guard. Fang Xiu's revelation only added to Zhao Hao's shock. He had planned to linger a bit longer, suggesting Zhao Hao leave if he was scared. After a moment of contemplation, Zhao Hao reluctantly decided to join Fang Xiu. He crouched beside him, eyes fixed on the ghost's leg. Despite fear etched on his face, he mustered the courage to reach out and place his hand on the doctor's thigh. After moments of hesitant contact, Zhao Hao confessed to Fang Xiu that he felt no bodily reactions and inquired if Fang Xiu experienced anything similar, to which Fang Xiu responded in the negative. Zhao Hao quipped about the irony of his first encounter with a woman's thigh being that of a ghost's. Who would have thought, he mused, these legs are longer than my entire existence. Fang Xiu couldn't help but be taken aback by Zhao Hao's sudden levity. Despite his initial trepidation, seeing his friend crack jokes in such a tense situation made Fang Xiu reassess Zhao Hao's character. Perhaps there was more bravery within him than he initially thought. Meanwhile, Fang Xiu kept a vigilant eye on his phone, monitoring the passing seconds. It's been a minute, he announced, checking the timer. Let's give it another 30 seconds of contact, then we make a dash for it. This strategic decision aimed to ensure they had ample time to flee without risking their safety. As the timer on his phone hit the 1-minute 30-second mark, Fang Xiu wasted no time in urging Zhao Hao to make their escape. As they dashed away from the scene, Zhao Hao couldn't help but voice his concerns to Fang Xiu. Brother Xiu, do you really think we can outrun the ghost? He panted, his voice tinged with uncertainty. And have you been here before? You seem awfully familiar with the terrain. Suddenly, Fang Xiu felt a chilling sensation as strands of the female doctor's hair brushed against his face. His heart skipped a beat. How is this possible, he thought, panic rising within him. Fei Fei's form should have bought us at least 2 minutes of escape time. Why did she catch up with us so quickly? As Fang Xiu glanced back while fleeing, his eyes widened in shock at the sight of 2 breast implants lying on the ground, remnants of Fei Fei's body. Suddenly, the female doctor materialized behind him with supernatural speed. With a swift and deadly motion, she slashed his neck, sending a wave of searing pain through his body. In the moment of his demise at the hands of the female doctor, Fang Xiu felt his consciousness slip away. Yet, to his utter astonishment, when he opened his eyes again, it was as if nothing had happened. He found himself once more in the presence of Zhao Hao, who was still crouching in front of the ghost. He pondered about the reason why he rolled back to the moment when he touched the ghost's thigh and didn't respawn in his bed like before. While looking to his phone, he wondered if it was like a video game. The first level is his apartment, and the second level is Green Mountain Mental Hospital, and since he already passed the first level, now he will return to the checkpoint in the second level, which is this moment. While Zhao Hao fixated on the ghost's thigh with desire, Fang Xiu's mind flashed back to his previous demise caused by the silicone. Determined not to repeat that fatal error, he promptly rose to his feet and clasped his friend by the head, insisting they depart. Puzzled, Zhao Hao questioned the urgency, recalling Fang Xiu's assurance that they had ample time to escape. Fang Xiu quickly retorted that Li Fei Fei's chest was filled with silicone, suggesting that her flesh would be devoured rapidly. With a sense of urgency, they sprinted down the stairs at full speed, desperate to escape. Before long, they spotted Wang Xiao and the others descending the stairs. Wang Xiao, visibly panicked and sweating profusely, cried out in fear that the ghost had caught up with them, urging everyone to flee for their lives. Without hesitation, Fang Xiu swiftly leaped from his position and landed in front of them, causing a collective startle among the group. Wu Dehai wiped his sweat, visibly relieved upon realizing that it was Fang Xiu and not the ghost. From behind, Zhao Hao questioned why they were running so slowly. Enraged by the inquiry, the blonde colleague retorted that they had already descended at least 20 floors and couldn't comprehend why the building was so tall. Rubbing his head in frustration, Zhao Hao objected, stating that it was impossible since he and Fang Xiu had only descended 3 floors before encountering them. This remark seemed to further aggravate the group. "What are you saying, Zhao Hao? I'll punch you in the face if you keep spouting nonsense," the blonde colleague threatened angrily. Wang Xiao trembled in fear as he spoke, his voice quivering with terror as he revealed that the ghost was conjuring walls. He went on to explain, with a panicked tone, that his cousin had warned him about the ghost's ability to create illusions resembling walls. Those ensnared by these illusions would endlessly spin in place, unable to escape. This revelation shed light on why Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao had managed to catch up with them so swiftly. As the weight of this information sank in, Fang Xiu directed everyone to drop their belongings on the ground as markers. Upon hearing this, Wang Xiao urgently urged everyone to comply. They quickly followed Fang Xiu's instructions, dropping their belongings to the ground as instructed. With that done, Fang Xiu instructed them to follow him downstairs. Filled with fear and anticipation, they cautiously continued their descent down the stairs. Suddenly, Fang Xiu called for them to halt. Zhao Hao inquired about the reason, but then he and the others realized they had returned to their starting point. Shock and fear gripped them as they spotted their belongings on the ground before them. It dawned on them that they were ensnared in the ghost's illusions. The realization struck them with dread, knowing that if the ghost caught up, they would all be doomed. Wang Xiao implored them to cease arguing, emphasizing that ordinary people couldn't escape the ghost's illusions. To break free from the predicament, they needed to tap into their spirituality. He then asked if anyone could ignite their spirituality at that moment. After hearing Wang Xiao's suggestion, they were puzzled, their brows furrowed in confusion as they struggled to comprehend the situation. Clenching his hands near his chest, Wang Xiao admitted that he wasn't sure if being chased by a ghost earlier counted as a true life and death experience, but he fervently hoped that it would be enough to quickly ignite his spirituality. The female colleague questioned how someone could determine if they had experienced such a profound moment. The other colleague admitted he didn't know either. However, he urged her to follow Wang Xiao's lead, and they all began to imitate him, hoping to ignite their spirituality as well. Meanwhile, Fang Xiu gazed downstairs, a sense of familiarity washing over him. He recalled navigating through the mental hospital previously, where the stairwell exit had been on the right. Though he couldn't pinpoint the specific building they were in now, the layout seemed strikingly similar. Glancing back, Wang Xiao noticed Fang Xiu's contemplative expression and sensed he was about to take action. As Fang Xiu stretched his hands, Xiao inquired about his intentions. Zhao Hao, who was following closely behind, remarked on Fang Xiu's unusual calmness today. Recalling the events of the day, Wang Xiao realized that from the beginning until now, Fang Xiu hadn't shown a hint of panic, even when faced with the ghost. He hadn't fled when they encountered the female doctor either. While the rest of them sought refuge in the stairwell, Fang Xiu remained behind with Zhao Hao and Li Feifei. It was evident that Li Feifei had fallen victim to the ghost, yet Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao lingered in the corridor with the ghost for at least a minute. What were they doing? And why hadn't the ghost attacked them? Could it be that they were exploiting the female ghost in some way? However, he hastily dismissed the idea, deeming it impossible. After all, it was a ghost. Meanwhile, Fang Xiu was running his hand along the wall, prompting Zhao Hao to inquire about his actions. Eager to assist, Zhao Hao expressed his willingness to learn from Fang Xiu. Suddenly, a metal door materialized on the wall before them. Excitedly, Wang Xiao exclaimed, "It's a door! There's a door here!" He urged Fang Xiu to open it. With determination, Wang Xiao reached for the doorknob and turned it. As the door creaked open, a ghostly aura emanated from within. Wang Xiao dashed inside without a second thought, declaring their salvation. The others followed suit, leaving Fang Xiu behind. Zhao Hao turned to Fang Xiu, urging him to run quickly before the ghost caught up with them. In Fang Xiu's mind, he reasoned that there was no need to sprint too hastily when facing the female doctor. He only needed to be faster than the slowest person. While she was preoccupied consuming her meal, he could afford to linger a bit longer, perhaps even touch her thighs a few more times to elevate his spirituality. As they hurried forward, Wang Xiao abruptly called for them to halt. Ahead of them lay 2 paths, both veiled in darkness. Uncertain of what to do, one of them suggested that the person next to him should check the left side. Enraged by the suggestion, he accused the speaker of using him as a guinea pig and demanded that he check it himself. Suddenly, all eyes turned to Fang Xiu, as if they saw him as their beacon of hope. Wang Xiao asked Fang Xiu which way he thought they should go. In his mind, Fang Xiu contemplated their audacity to ask him this question, especially after they had pushed him aside when rushing into the room. Nevertheless, he dismissed these thoughts, considering them merely tools. At present, the female doctor was invincible against individuals like himself. To ignite his spirituality, he needed to sacrifice human lives. Fang Xiu remained silent and decisively chose the road to the right, with everyone following suit without hesitation. Suddenly, a clicking sound of joint rotation echoed in the air. When they looked back, they saw the spider-like female doctor hanging upside down from the ceiling. Amidst fear and despair, Wu Dehai shouted at the people in front of him to make way. Glancing up, he was horrified to see the ghost catching up with him. He ran desperately, his instinct to preserve his life overriding all else. In a desperate act, he reached out, grabbed one of the employees in front of him, and flung him back as a sacrifice. As he trembled on the ground, consumed by fear and cursing Wu Dehai for his actions, a sharp and cold knife suddenly pierced his throat, ending his life. While running alongside Fang Xiu, Wu Dehai exclaimed, "Xiao Chen, you can rest assured, I will burn incense for you during the holidays." In hopes of igniting his spirituality sooner, Fang Xiu turned towards the ghost for another round of thigh-touching. Zhao Hao, noticing Fang Xiu's actions, turned around to check on him, only to find him near the ghost, fixated on her thighs. "Fang Xiu, don't be so selfish, touching her thigh without me," Zhao Hao exclaimed, joining Fang Xiu and sitting next to him. He began rubbing his hands together, his face flushed and drooling, with a bleeding nose. At this point, it seemed clear to everyone what Fang Xiu's motives were. But this fucking maniac. I mean, what the fuck is wrong with him? Anyway, this sick bastard started touching the ghost's thigh while asking Fang Xiu if living women's thighs felt the same and if he had touched one before. However, Fang Xiu didn't answer his questions, perhaps because he was too scared of this sick, twisted pervert. After touching the ghost's thigh for a while, they ran away through the narrow corridor. At the end of it, they found themselves in a restaurant room, an abandoned and filthy restaurant with cockroaches crawling all over the place. The first thing that popped into Zhao Hao's head was if there was anything to eat because he was so hungry. Let me tell you, this guy is a hell of a maniac. In this disgusting place, he still wants something to eat. Anyway, Wang Xiao informed them that there usually was a back door in the restaurant. With a wide smile, he urged everyone to quickly search for it. He then advised Zhao Hao not to be too eager to find food, promising to treat him to a feast if they made it out alive. He even pledged to bring him some girls. Upon hearing this, Wu Dehai chimed in, saying, "Wang Xiao, don't mind this kid. I'll dig a hole for you even if there's no escape." Suddenly, a woman from behind shouted that she found a door. Wang Xiao turned towards her and asked her not to open it, expressing his desire to do it himself. After opening the door and stepping through, they found themselves in an even darker place. It seemed they were moving towards a more mysterious inner space rather than an exit. They noticed another door inside this room and headed towards it. Upon opening it, they were shocked to discover a strange room beyond. Frustrated, Wang Xiao exclaimed that it was a dead end and there was no way out at all. It seemed they had fallen into another illusion. Fang Xiu realized that his choice had been wrong and that next time he should choose the left path. He also realized that it was too late to turn back now. Although sacrificing one person to help others escape was an option, no one knew how far they would have to run or how many lives it would cost. He considered finding the female ghost and resetting the situation. As he headed towards the corridor, Zhao Hao warned him that if he went back now, he would definitely run into the female ghost. Suddenly, everyone started pointing their fingers at Fang Xiu, exclaiming that it was his fault. If he hadn't chosen the wrong path, they wouldn't be stuck like this. With a sinister grin, Fang Xiu thought to himself, "People are so interesting. Are they blaming me now?" Countering with determination, Zhao Hao retorted vigorously, "Brother Xiu didn't coerce you into joining us, did he? Weren't you eager to follow? It was you who sought directions from us initially, but now you're faulting Brother Xiu for the chosen path. If you're capable, why didn't you take the lead yourself?" Enraged by Zhao Hao's remarks, Wu Dehai retorted, "We may lack certain skills, but at least we don't act recklessly like him. When we're unsure of the path, we discuss it collectively. We all placed our trust in him and allowed him to decide. Yet, who would have thought he'd choose blindly? He's betrayed our trust and led us into a dead end." Wu Dehai's impassioned response struck Zhao Hao with such force that it left him momentarily speechless. Wang Xiao positioned himself between Zhao Hao and Wu Dehai, urging them to cease their argument. With a solemn tone, he emphasized, "Our immediate concern must be devising a strategy for survival." Casting a cautious glance around the room, he shared his observations. "From what I've seen, this apparition only targets one individual at a time. After each attack, there's a brief window of safety lasting 2 to 3 minutes. Our only option is to designate a distraction, allowing the rest of us to flee to safety. As Wang Xiao's words settled in, a sinister grin crept across Fang Xiu's face. Unable to contain himself, he burst into laughter, his amusement at the grim situation palpable. With a resolute stride, Wang Xiao moved purposefully toward Wang Xiu, his gaze unwavering. It was evident that he had made a decision, and Wang Xiu seemed to understand his unspoken intent. In addition to his determined approach, Wang Xiao raised his voice, resonating with authority as he exclaimed, "It's Fang Xiu who led us into this dire predicament. It's time for him to make amends. Join me, lend your aid." As Wang Xiao's words hung in the air, a heavy silence settled over the group. Their eyes met in a shared expression of dismay and uncertainty. While the instinct for self-preservation burned within them, the thought of sacrificing another human being to ensure their own survival filled them with profound discomfort. "Release Brother Xiu." Zhao Hao's voice reverberated through the tense atmosphere, filled with raw emotion and defiance. With a fierce roar, he propelled himself forward, charging towards Wang Xiao with determination etched into every line of his face. Startled by Zhao Hao's sudden charge, Wang Xiao's shock was evident in his wide-eyed expression. Reacting swiftly, he called out to Wu Dehai, his voice tinged with urgency and desperation. "Wu Dehai, come quickly and assist me." Upon receiving Wang Xiao's call for assistance, Wu Dehai sprang into action without hesitation. Wu Dehai, with determination etched on his face, swiftly lunged at Zhao Hao, using his robust frame to forcefully knock him to the ground. As Zhao Hao lay beneath him, Wu Dehai directed his attention to Wang, his voice steady despite the commotion around them. "I've got him under control," he assured Wang, his weight pressing down on Zhao Hao to keep him restrained. Meanwhile, Zhao Hao's shouts reverberated through the room, pleading to be released. A sudden hush fell over the group as they registered the unmistakable sound of the door closing. Outside the door, Fang Xiu stood alone, peering inside. He could discern the varied expressions of his companions. As Fang Xiu observed the scene within, a voice from within the group erupted in alarm, demanding to know who had closed the door. Inside the room, the girl trembled in terror, her hands instinctively flying to cover her face as she let out a panicked cry. "I didn't do anything," she exclaimed, her voice quivering with fear. "I can't see anything." Meanwhile, Zhao Hao lay sprawled on the ground, his voice hoarse with desperation as he continued to shout Fang Xiu's name. As Wang Xiao's gaze fixed upon the closed door, his heart pounded with trepidation. Through the small window, he discerned a faint silhouette. With a tremor in his voice, Wang Xiao voiced the question that weighed heavily on everyone's minds. "Is that human or ghost?" Beyond the threshold, Fang Xiu's voice echoed, bearing a haunting blend of acceptance and amusement. "I never imagined humans could captivate me again," he mused, irony dripping from his words. "Yet, they prove more intriguing than ghosts on occasion." He chuckled, his tone tinged with irony. "Thank you for reigniting my interest in this world. Rest assured, I'll repay you handsomely next time." But his laughter dissolved into silence as a chilling noise shattered the air. In a swift, lethal motion, the doctor's blade sliced through, severing Fang Xiu's life with a single stroke. As Fang Xiu lay motionless amidst a pool of blood, Wang Xiao forcefully swung open the door, bolting out alongside Wu Dehai. Meanwhile, Zhao Hao rushed towards his fallen friend Xiu, tears welled in Zhao Hao's eyes as he cried out Fang Xiu's name, his voice echoing with anguish and desperation. As Wang Xiao fled, a smug smirk played across his lips, and he couldn't resist glancing back at Fang Xiu's lifeless form with a twisted satisfaction. Suddenly, his expression froze in shock as he was nailed in his tracks, his features contorted with surprise and disbelief. Even in death, Fang Xiu's face retained a serene smile, his gaze fixed upon Wang Xiao with unwavering calmness and peace. Wang Xiao's heart seemed to skip a beat as he heard the voice of the deceased Xiu, a chill running down his spine. "Just wait for me," Xiu's words echoed hauntingly in his ears, sending shivers through his entire being. Abruptly, a cold, clammy sensation radiated from Fang Xiu's palm, while unexpected sight of slender, pale thighs emerging into view. Fang Xiu's realization dawned upon him like a thunderbolt. He had returned to the last checkpoint, that precise moment when he and Zhao Hao had touched the ghost's thigh. Fang Xiu, freshly returned from death, found himself mirroring his previous actions without deviation. It was as though he was replaying the scene like a repetitive episode of a television drama. Touching the thigh, running, descending the stairs, Fang Xiu followed the same sequence of actions as before. Soon after, the air filled with the sound of approaching footsteps, followed by Wang Xiao's scream, "Ghost!" Ghost is catching up. Just as previously, Fang Xiu leaped down from the stairs to the next floor, successfully reuniting with Wang Xiao and the others. Xiao Hao glanced at the crowd with surprise, questioning why they were moving so slowly. Angrily, one of them shot back, stating they had been running at their maximum speed and had already descended at least 20 floors. The conversation resumed as before, while Fang Xiu ignored them and continued his descent without interruption. Suddenly, the sound of a door opening echoed through the corridor, leaving everyone astonished that Fang Xiu had located the exit so swiftly. "What are you waiting for?" Xiao Hao urged, prompting them to hurry towards the exit. In no time, the group found themselves standing before two hallways. Wang Xiao asserted that since Fang Xiu had discovered the door just moments ago, he must know which path to take. He implored Fang Xiu to assist them in their escape, promising that everyone would repay him for his help. Fang Xiu didn't respond immediately but instead took out his mobile phone, checking the time. "There's still 1 minute, he remarked, and the ghost will appear after 1 minute. Wang Xiao's excitement was evident as he exclaimed, "You actually know when the ghosts will appear? It seems you've truly become a spirit master, Brother Xiu. As long as you can get me out of this ghost domain, I'll give you 5 million. However, Fang Xiu shook his head calmly at that moment. With a sinister smile, he glanced back at Wang Xiao and said, "No rush. Before we leave, I have one more thing to attend to." As Wang Xiao attempted to inquire about Fang Xiu's intentions, he was abruptly interrupted by a decisive kick to the groin. The force of the impact caused him to spew blood from his mouth, and an agonizing scream pierced through the crowd. Writhing in pain on the ground, Wang Xiao was met with Fang Xiu's sarcastic retort, suggesting that he could use the 5 million to tend to his injured eggs. Shaking in agony, Wang Xiao questioned Xiu about why he had kicked him. "Is it because the money is insufficient?" Wang Xiao inquired, his voice strained with pain. "If you believe the payment is inadequate, please inform me." Wu Dehai reacted swiftly, his voice laced with anger as he addressed Fang Xiu. "Fang Xiu, what's the meaning of this? Why did you kick him out of the blue?" Another colleague also joined in, echoing the questioning of Fang Xiu's actions. Upon hearing their words, Fang Xiu offered an explanation for his actions. He stated that the speed of the ghosts far exceeds that of humans, implying that when the time limit expired, someone would inevitably perish. By incapacitating Wang Xiao, who had lost his ability to move, Fang Xiu believed he had effectively saved them from the fate of death. While skepticism lingered among the others regarding Fang Xiu's reasoning, Xiao Hao voiced his agreement with Fang Xiu's explanation. After Fang Xiu finished speaking, he made another sudden move, catching everyone off guard. In the next moment, another piercing scream echoed through the air. This time, it was Wu Dehai who collapsed to the ground. Wu Dehai's posture mirrored that of Wang Xiao's as he tumbled to the ground, clutching his groin and emitting agonized howls. The screams seemed never-ending, but it became evident that Wu Dehai's endurance paled in comparison to Wang Xiao's. After just 2 screams, he succumbed to unconsciousness. This time, the eruption of the group was palpable, as Fang Xiu's unexpected attacks had resulted in serious injuries to both Wang Xiao and Wu Dehai. Xiao Hao stuttered, subconsciously taking a few steps back from Fang Xiu, his hands instinctively moving to protect his own groin. "What on earth are you doing?" exclaimed the other colleague, his voice brimming with disbelief and concern. 2 sudden attacks for no reason, causing serious injuries to 2 people. "Are you insane?" He continued to argue, stating that the reason for attacking Mr. Wang was to save them, but what about attacking Manager Wu? Facing the question, Fang Xiu's expression remained unchanged as he calmly stated, "I am keeping him as a spare." Xiao Hao offered a thumbs up, affirming, "Just as expected, Brother Xiu, always thorough." As everyone gazed upon Fang Xiu's composed countenance, a storm brewed within their hearts. Fang Xiu's actions were undeniably stark and ruthless, catching them off guard and leaving them deeply shaken. While it might be understandable to harm one person to safeguard another, Fang Xiu's decision to keep a spare was unprecedented and unsettling. Fang Xiu emphasized the urgency of the situation, pointing out that time was limited. He further clarified that the right side led to a dead end, while survival lay in choosing the left path. One person exclaimed, questioning Fang Xiu's decision, "If the way to survive is on the left, why don't you go first? Is there danger in the corridor ahead, and are you using us as backup?" Calmly, Fang Xiu responded, "I am waiting to touch a thigh." He then added, "You also have 10 seconds left to escape." The other 2 individuals present found themselves questioning their own ears, unable to fully comprehend Fang Xiu's statement, except for Xiao Hao. With excitement, he exclaimed, eagerly requesting to join Xiao in another thigh-touching session. At that moment, the sound of joint rotations filled the air as the female doctor descended from the ceiling, her limbs emitting crackling sounds as she crawled towards them. Filled with panic, the two screamed and attempted to flee, their heads whipping around in terror. However, their fear of Fang Xiu's possible deceit caused them to hesitate momentarily. Eventually, they darted into the corridor on the left, but their trepidation prevented them from venturing too far into its depths. On the contrary, Fang Xiu didn't flee. Instead, he advanced towards the female doctor. However, he halted his approach not far from Wang Xiao. Upon witnessing Fang Xiu's approach, Wang Xiao's eyes brimmed with a mixture of hatred and anger. He extended his hand, as if desperately yearning to seize Fang Xiu's trousers, as if to drag him down with him. Fang Xiu stepped forward and firmly planted his foot on Wang Xiao's palm, eliciting a sharp cry of pain from him. The intense agony drove Wang Xiao to the brink of madness. At that moment, Fang Xiu slowly crouched down in front of him, the shadow descending to conceal his face. He informed Wang Xiao that he wouldn't leave. Instead, he would remain to witness the ghost devour him. Meanwhile, the ghost was upon him, seizing his head with its hands. This time, instead of using a knife, it gruesomely tore his head off with its bare hands. Is this the taste of revenge? It's truly intoxicating. Fang Xiu's body trembled involuntarily. It was his first experience savoring the fruit of revenge, and he couldn't contain his excitement. As Wang Xiao's blood sprayed across his face, each warm droplet served as a visceral reminder of the justice being served, fueling the fire of vengeance burning within him. The rhythmic thud of his own heart echoed in his ears, a steady beat of triumph against the backdrop of chaos. In that moment, he couldn't help but imagine the satisfaction of one day witnessing his wife's demise at his own hands. Soon, Fang Xiu crouched near the female doctor and began to touch her thigh. The few people not far away were completely stunned. Even though they saw it with their own eyes, they still couldn't believe it. It turned out that what Fang Xiu said about touching thighs was really about touching the ghost's thigh. At that moment, Fang Xiu turned around and glanced at Zhao Hao. Recalling what Zhao Hao had done in the utility room earlier, Fang Xiu, although devoid of any sentimentality, still felt a desire to assist Zhao Hao further. Fang Xiu extended his hand, inviting Zhao Hao to join him. Zhao Hao hesitated, facing Fang Xiu's invitation. Fang Xiu's current appearance was too frightening to ignore. Fang Xiu's calm face was now smeared with blood, creating a stark contrast against his pale skin. The juxtaposition of white skin and bright red blood lent him an eerie, almost haunting beauty. At his feet lay the severed limbs of Wang Xiao, mingling with the ghost's presence, creating a macabre scene that made it difficult to distinguish between the two. Zhao Hao hesitated for a moment, grappling with his decision before finally breaking the silence. He confessed that he had very few friends, and Fang Xiu was the only genuine friend he had. Coming from a modest background with unremarkable looks, Zhao Hao had always felt like an outsider in the sales office. It was only Fang Xiu, also an orphan, who had shown him kindness and accepted him. Over time, their bond grew stronger, and they became good friends despite their differences. Slowly, Zhao Hao made his way to Fang Xiu's side, overcoming his reservations. And the two of them touched the ghost's thighs together. Zhao Hao hesitated before asking, "Why did you suddenly attack Wang Xiao and Wu Dehai?" Fang Xiu elaborated on the ghost's extraordinary speed, suggesting that survival necessitated trading human lives for time. Given the status of Wang Xiao and Wu Dehai, in a situation where a choice had to be made, whom would you choose? Is it Fang Xiu, with his conflicts with Wang and Wu Dehai? Or is it Zhao Hao, who has always been disliked? Or perhaps he considered one of them? Zhao Hao's complexion turned slightly pale, preparing to respond when Fang Xiu interjected, "Do you sense a chilling sensation creeping into your body?" Zhao Hao was momentarily startled, then shook his head. Fang Xiu's heart skipped a beat as he sensed it attentively. It wasn't an illusion. A peculiar chill indeed emanated from the female doctor's thigh into his palm, coursing through his body as it spread from his hand. Fang Xiu pondered whether this sensation was an indication of some strange force taking hold. He questioned why he hadn't felt anything when he touched the ghost's thigh before. Then it dawned on him that perhaps there had been a faint sensation earlier, but it was too subtle to notice. Now, it seemed to be nearing a critical point, causing the feeling to intensify suddenly. Could this be considered a prelude to spiritual awakening? After hearing Fang Xiu's statement, Zhao Hao became extremely excited, touching the ghost's thigh in various places while questioning, "Cool air invading the body? What does this cold air signify? Why can't I sense it? Could it be due to my posture?" After a moment, Zhao Hao suggested they should leave because the ghost was nearing the end of its meal. Fang Xiu comforted him, urging not to fret, and pointed out that Wu Dehai was still present. He also mentioned a growing sense of readiness to ignite his spirituality. Zhao Hao was instantly filled with delight. Really, brother? That's fantastic. We're saved. What does it feel like to ignite spirituality? I can't feel anything. Fang Xiu explained that although Zhao Hao had been in contact with ghosts for a long time, his mindset wasn't up to standard, and he hadn't truly experienced life and death. Therefore, he couldn't feel it. As Zhao Hao contemplated Fang Xiu's words, he began to wonder when exactly Fang Xiu had experienced life and death, considering they had been together all this time. Meanwhile, the ghost began to process Wu Dehai's body. While Fang Xiu's hand rested upon the ghost's thigh, he turned to Zhao and remarked, Wu Dehai's robust frame will serve us well. He's quite hefty, Fang Xiu continued. We should be able to maintain this for 5 minutes. Let's limit our touch to 2 minutes, ensuring we have 3 minutes to make our escape. With a thumbs up, Zhao Hao nodded in agreement to Fang Xiu's plan. At this juncture, Fang Xiu closed his eyes, his hand moving in an irregular pattern as he concentrated intently. With each stroke, he focused on the sensation coursing through his palm. In his perception, an increasing amount of cold air gathered within his body. However, upon entering, this chilling presence dissipated without a trace, akin to a stone sinking into the depths of the sea. Intrigued by this phenomenon, Fang Xiu couldn't help but wonder where this peculiar breath was penetrating. Was it delving into the depths of his soul? Driven by curiosity, he allowed his consciousness to immerse itself fully, like a small boat navigating a river, following the path of the cool air to an unknown destination. Slowly, his awareness merged seamlessly with the flow, like a tributary merging into the vast expanse of the sea. In this moment, Fang Xiu perceived a heart within him, beating sluggishly as if shrouded in dust, tainted and unclean. All the while, the cool air permeated into this heart, seeping through its very core. Finally, Fang Xiu experienced the ignition of spirituality, a profound awakening that transformed his being. With this awakening came a remarkable enhancement of his senses and strength, exceeding any expectations he had harbored. At first, he notices subtle changes, a sharpening of his perception, an enhanced clarity in his vision. Colors seem more vivid, sounds more resonant, and scents more fragrant. Every sensation becomes more acute, as if a veil has been lifted from his senses, allowing him to perceive the world with newfound depth and intensity. Physically, he feels a surge of energy coursing through his veins, filling him with a sense of vitality and power. Muscles that once felt tired and weak now feel energized and invigorated, capable of feats he never thought possible. His movements become more fluid and graceful, guided by an inner strength that seems to emanate from his very core. However, despite the initial surge of spiritual enlightenment, Fang Xiu now found himself at a mere 1% of his full potential. It became apparent to him that further contact with ghosts would be necessary to unlock and exert more of his latent spiritual power. The essence of a spiritual master lies in the manifestation of spiritual power. Whatever occupies the deepest recesses of their being, whatever they care about, long for, and yearn for with utmost sincerity, is inevitably unveiled through their spiritual prowess. Indeed, the diversity of abilities amongst spirit masters stems from the unique desires and aspirations harbored within each individual's heart. Just as no two souls are exactly alike, so too are the abilities and powers they wield. Fang Xiu's mind brimmed with curiosity as he pondered the nature of his abilities and the depths of his desires. What unique talents and strengths lay dormant within him, waiting to be unveiled? And, perhaps more profoundly, what stirred within his heart as his most profound longing? Suddenly, as if in response to his inner questioning, a surge of excruciating pain coursed through Fang Xiu's body, gripping him in its merciless grasp. In that agonizing moment, clarity dawned upon him like a bolt of lightning illuminating the darkest of nights. His special ability, undeniably and unequivocally, was pain. Each time he is killed, he resurrects to inflict upon his enemy the pain he has endured, ensuring they suffer in the same manner. Fang Xiu erupted into uncontrollable laughter, catching Zhao Hao off guard with the intensity of his amusement. "Brother, did you succeed?" Zhao Hao asked, surprised. Fang Xiu didn't respond, only continuing to laugh. He continued to exclaim about the amazing ability, thoroughly satisfied with it. In that moment, memories of his wife flooded back, she who had killed him 18 times before. In his mind, he made a solemn promise to make her feel the same pain he had endured at her hands. Suddenly, Zhao Hao interrupted Fang Xiu's excitement, informing him that 2 minutes had already passed. Fang Xiu's expression immediately returned to calm. "Leave for now. I'm going to experiment with the power of spirituality," he instructed. "Did you truly become the spirit master that Wang Xiao mentioned?" Zhao Hao asked, brimming with joy. Without dignifying Zhao Hao's question with a response, Fang Xiu strode purposefully toward the ghost. Standing directly in front of her, he raised his hand, enveloped in a swirling aura of spiritual energy. As he faced the ghost, his mind filled with determination, vowing silently to make her feel the agony of his 21 previous deaths. Fang Xiu's fist soared through the air, closing the distance between him and the ghost's face with remarkable speed. With a fierce determination in his eyes, he unleashed his punch, channeling all his strength and resolve into the strike. As Fang Xiu's punch made contact with the ghost's face, the doctor emitted a piercing cry of agony, her body crumpling to the ground with a heavy thud. Even the scalpel she had brandished slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. However, instead of satisfaction, Fang Xiu's expression soured into a frown. It was clear to him that this punch hadn't yielded the desired outcome. Additionally, a realization dawned upon him: his spiritual powers had depleted significantly after just one punch. Despite Fang Xiu's powerful punch, there was no significant trauma visible on the female doctor's head. "It seems next time, it will truly hurt the ghost," Fang Xiu mused. Realizing the limitations of his bare fists, he acknowledged that it might be more effective to utilize weapons. However, he pondered whether ordinary weapons could channel spirituality. Suddenly, his gaze fell upon the scalpel discarded by the female doctor. A spark of realization ignited within him. Without a moment's hesitation, Zhao Hao picked up the scalpel from the ground. Suddenly, a surge of ominous energy emanated from it, coursing through Fang Xiu's body like an electric shock. It felt as if the energy were piercing his very heart. Fang Xiu pondered the origins of the scalpel, recalling its use on various strange entities within the mental hospital. He surmised that it had absorbed a significant amount of pain from those encounters, perhaps contributing to the transformation of the female doctor into a ghost. With the scalpel now in his possession, a question lingered in his mind: could he use it to end the ghost's existence? Determined to find out, Fang Xiu resolved to put his theory to the test. While Zhao Hao, in his typical perverted manner, was fondling the ghost's thigh, Fang Xiu cursed and demanded that he step aside. With a peculiar expression, Zhao Hao retorted that he was merely following Fang Xiu's lead. Ignoring him, Fang Xiu swiftly moved to strike the ghost's neck from behind. To their astonishment, nothing seemed to affect the ghost. Instead, they heard only the sound of steel clashing against steel. As Zhao Hao examined the doctor's unblemished neck, he discovered that there wasn't even a scratch on her skin. Puzzled, he couldn't help but wonder why the sharp scalpel hadn't inflicted any harm upon her. As Zhao Hao touched the doctor's neck, he couldn't help but get carried away with his inappropriate thoughts. His mouth began to drool at the sight of her smooth skin, lost in his perverse fantasies. Like a sick son of a bitch. With an annoyed expression, Fang Xiu thought to himself, it seems that revenge is not possible for the time being. Realizing it was time to escape from the ghost, Fang Xiu grabbed Zhao Hao by the collar and hastily dragged him away from the haunting presence. At this moment, the ghost doctor stood up, scanning the area, and suddenly realized she had lost her scalpel. Meanwhile, Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao wandered down the hallway. After igniting his spirituality, Fang Xiu's five senses sharpened, allowing him to immediately detect someone nearby. He then spotted his two colleagues hiding around the corner. Zhao Hao informed him that there were 4 doors in the vicinity. He inquired which one they should choose. As they conversed, the two colleagues approached them, causing Zhao Hao to startle. With teary eyes, the girl expressed her relief at seeing them all right, while the guy pleaded with Fang Xiu to lead the way, expressing that he had been waiting for him for a long time. Irritated by their words, Zhao Hao exclaimed angrily, "You two were the first to run and leave us behind, and now you ask Brother Xiu to show you the way. How audacious are you?" Feeling embarrassed by his words, a strange smile spread across the guy's face, while the girl cast her gaze downward. Ignoring them, Fang Xiu answered Zhao Hao's question by suggesting they should try the doors one by one. His suggestion left everyone stunned. "We're in a race against time. How can we afford to try them one by one?" the male colleague exclaimed. Fang Xiu and Zhao Hao hurried toward the door, with Fang Xiu advising them to cease the unnecessary discussion, emphasizing, "It's your choice whether to follow or not." All of a sudden, a noise from above on the ceiling sent shivers down their spines. It was the ghost catching up with them. The guy exclaimed, "How is this possible? Did she already devour Wang Xiao and Wu Dehai?" Fang Xiu came to the realization that it was probably his action of snatching away the scalpel that disrupted her murderous pattern. He positioned himself at the door, pushing it open, and urgently shouted, "Let's go!" The door to the west revealed a staircase leading upward, prompting everyone to ascend eagerly. As the group ascended the staircase, Fang Xiu surged ahead with unmatched speed, fueled by the last reserves of his drained spirituality and the enhanced strength granted by his enlightened state. Yet, despite his rapid ascent, the ghost effortlessly closed the distance with her elongated strides, swiftly overtaking them all. While suspended from the ceiling, she menacingly demanded the return of the scalpel with her chilling voice. Startled by the sound, they turned to witness her horrifying presence as she hung upside down. Much to their astonishment, she disregarded their presence entirely, rushing instead towards Fang Xiu. With all his might, Zhao Hao yelled, "Brother Xiu, behind you!" Yet, Fang Xiu couldn't evade in time and was swiftly thrown to the ground. With a furious roar, the female doctor unleashed her bloodied mouth, sinking her teeth fiercely into Fang Xiu's neck, ending his life on the spot. Subsequently, Fang Xiu found himself back at the last checkpoint, repeating every action as before. He seized the opportunity to incapacitate Wang Xiao and Wu Dehai, retrieved the scalpel from the ghost, and made a dash for safety. Surrendering the scalpel was out of the question. Its capacity to slice through anything, coupled with its pain-inducing abilities, rendered it a lethal asset. This time, however, he opted for the northern exit. Beyond the northern door awaited the elevator, still functional but frustratingly sluggish in its startup. Just as the elevator doors were about to shut, a large, ghostly hand emerged, seizing him in a chilling grip. There was no escape. To the south lay the operating room, engulfed in chaos with dark bloodstains scattered throughout, a dead end, spelling Fang Xiu's demise once more. With no other options remaining, Fang Xiu turned towards the east door. If this path also led to a dead end, he would have no choice but to relinquish the scalpel clenched tightly in his hand. Thankfully, the eastward passage offered a glimmer of hope. As he traversed it, his mind raced with strategies. Though her speed surpassed his own, Fang Xiu realized he could utilize multiple death rollbacks to anticipate her attack patterns. In a way, reliving his demise allowed him to foresee the future. With each setback, he retained every detail, forging a path towards survival through the labyrinth of his past lives. In his frantic dash down the hallway, Fang Xiu's eyes caught sight of a door to his left. Determined to reach safety, he made a beeline for it, but the relentless pursuit of the female doctor ended his escape attempt abruptly, claiming his life once again. After enduring 9 deaths, Fang Xiu finally grasped the necessary actions and the correct path to take. Entering through the east door, an inhuman roar pierced the air, instilling terror in everyone present. However, as the female doctor charged forward, she bypassed the others and honed in on Fang Xiu. Amidst the chaos and screams, Zhao Hao's voice cut through the panic. "Brother, look above." Fang Xiu ran without glancing back. As the ghost's hand reached out to seize him from behind, he executed a swift dodge, surprising both the ghost and his companions. What astonished them even more was the confident smile adorning Fang Xiu's face. In awe, Zhao Hao found himself speechless at Fang Xiu's audacious maneuver. Without hesitation, Fang Xiu surged forward, putting as much distance as possible between himself and the relentless specter. Fueled by fury, the ghostly doctor unleashed a barrage of strikes towards Fang Xiu. However, to her frustration, Fang Xiu effortlessly evaded each attack, his movements honed through countless death rollbacks. Empowered by his heightened speed and strength, courtesy of his ignited spirituality, Fang Xiu danced around her strikes with newfound agility. Amidst the chaos, Zhao Hao watched in awe at Fang Xiu's incredible maneuvers, while the ghost doctor, consumed by rage, leapt from the ceiling to the ground, screeching at Fang Xiu with fury. Suddenly, Fang Xiu stumbled as if tripped by an unseen force, causing him to lose his balance and fall forward. Seizing the opportunity, the ghost doctor lunged towards him, but with a deft roll, Fang Xiu narrowly avoided her attack and found himself positioned in front of the exit door. Witnessing Fang Xiu's extraordinary evasion skills, his colleagues were left speechless, struggling to keep up with his lightning-fast movements. Could he be the spirit master? Zhao Hao pondered, his heart filled with a mixture of admiration and longing. After all, who among them didn't harbor dreams of transcendent power? As Fang Xiu raced towards the left passage, relief flooded over him as he spotted the bright green light of the safe passage sign. With his heart pounding in his chest, he pushed himself to run even faster, driven by the instinct for survival. But just as he approached the entrance to safety, an unexpected turn of events unfolded. The female doctor, who had been hot on his heels, emitted a shrill roar upon catching sight of the glowing sign. Her voice trembled with panic and fear. Bewildered by her sudden reaction, Fang Xiu couldn't help but wonder, why had she halted her pursuit? Was she afraid of something lurking within the supposedly safe passage? The sudden shift in the female doctor's focus caught everyone off guard as she abruptly turned and charged towards Zhao Hao. However, instead of attacking him, she simply bumped into him, brushing past with her chest as she darted away. The bewildered group watched in astonishment as she vanished into the darkness, leaving them perplexed by her uncharacteristic behavior. Concerned for Fang Xiu's well-being, Zhao Hao hurried to his side, asking if he was all right. Fang Xiu assured him that he was unharmed, but confessed to feeling unsettled by the female doctor's actions. Why did she flee upon seeing the sign? Fang Xiu mused aloud, voicing the question that weighed on his mind. It can only mean one thing, he concluded gravely, there must be a presence hidden here that even the female doctor fears. Beyond the sign lay a corridor cloaked in darkness, its depths shrouded in obscurity. However, faintly visible at the corridor's end stood an iron gate. Conventional wisdom suggested that beyond this gate lay the path to freedom. The revelation sparked surprise in the other two individuals. Could this be the secure passage their colleague had mentioned? The girl, in her astonishment, asserted that survival surely awaited them there. Though eager to depart, caution prevailed over impulsiveness. Sensing Fang Xiu's hesitation, they refrained from reckless exploration. The male colleague addressed Fang Xiu, "Why the reluctance? Is there something awry with this route?" Suddenly, Fang Xiu lowered himself to the ground and advised, "Let's take a moment to rest before continuing." Zhao Hao promptly assented, finding a spot beside him to sit. Exhausted from their prolonged sprint and overwhelmed by fear, the others couldn't dispute the need for a brief respite. With closed eyes, Fang Xiu focused on recuperating his strength, knowing he needed to be spiritually prepared before confronting what awaited beyond the door. The female doctor ghost's retreat had been triggered by the looming menace beyond that threshold. Minutes later, Fang Xiu's eyes snapped open, and he sat up with a sense of urgency. His sudden movement startled the others. "Let's go!" Fang Xiu commanded tersely, setting off toward the supposed safe passage. He proceeded cautiously, his senses heightened as he meticulously surveyed their surroundings, prepared to react swiftly to any potential threat. As Fang Xiu pressed onward, passing the ominous sign without incident, a sense of unease began to gnaw at him. Despite the absence of immediate danger, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. How could the path be devoid of peril when even the spectral doctor had fled upon glimpsing the hallway's door? Drawing closer to the blood-stained metal door, Zhao Hao and the others trailed anxiously behind, their fear palpable. With each step, Fang Xiu's suspicion deepened. Could it be that the true danger lay beyond this door? His mind raced with apprehension as they approached the threshold, the unsettling silence amplifying his doubts. Pushing open the door, Fang Xiu was met with an impenetrable darkness, a void devoid of light, reminiscent of a bottomless pit. Concern etched on Zhao Hao's face. He voiced his worries. "Brother Xiu, is there truly a path in there? Could it be dangerous?" Undeterred, Fang Xiu replied resolutely, "Even if there is danger, we must proceed." Without hesitation, he stepped into the darkness, feeling as though he were being swallowed by an abyss. The darkness was so dense that not even his fingers were visible. Strangely, there was an eerie silence, no footsteps, no voices from Zhao Hao and the others. Fang Xiu couldn't discern if they were still behind him. Attempting to speak, Fang Xiu found his vocal cords vibrating, yet no sound escaped his lips, adding to the surreal silence engulfing him. Attempting to turn back, Fang Xiu realized the door had vanished, leaving him engulfed in darkness with no point of reference except forward. For what seemed like an eternity, he trudged onward through the oppressive blackness. Minutes turned into an agonizing stretch of time, yet the darkness showed no signs of relenting, as if the path stretched infinitely. While such isolation and darkness could drive an ordinary person to madness, Fang Xiu remained unaffected, his heart already darker than the road he traversed. Just as Fang Xiu felt despair creeping in, a glimmer of light pierced the darkness, expanding gradually until it engulfed the surroundings. Slowly, the darkness receded, revealing familiar surroundings. Stunned, Fang Xiu found himself standing outside the mental hospital, illuminated by the glow of streetlights lining the boulevard leading to Bailu Academy. The realization struck him, he had emerged onto the familiar road he had walked before. Suddenly, the other three emerged behind him. "Brother Xiu, we made it. We're out of the ghost's domain," exclaimed Zhao Hao, brimming with excitement. The girl, still incredulous, marveled at their escape from the mental hospital. Meanwhile, the other guy urged them to leave the eerie place immediately and bolted away without a second thought. "Brother Xiao, let's get out of here quickly. What if the ghosts from inside follows us out?" Xiao Hao suggested anxiously, but Fang Xiu remained silent, his gaze fixed upon Bailu Academy. Gradually, his brow furrowed with confusion. Why was the mental hospital gone? While inside, he couldn't see the full picture of the surroundings, but now, upon exiting, he should have been able to spot the mental hospital. Yet, it had vanished, leaving only Bailu Academy in sight. The smooth exit without encountering any danger puzzled Fang Xiu. While he and the others emerged unscathed, the female doctor had simply glanced at the sign and fled. Could it be that the female doctor was somehow restricted from leaving the mental hospital, thus fleeing upon seeing the exit? Unable to unravel the mystery, Fang Xiu found himself compelled to leave, spurred on by Xiao Hao's persistent urging. However, as they walked, Fang Xiu stumbled upon another startling discovery. The eerie occurrences had vanished entirely. The once ghost-filled streets and the unsettling atmosphere were now devoid of any strangeness. What exactly was happening? The sudden disappearance of the inexplicable phenomena left Fang Xiu bewildered and searching for answers. Fang Xiu's heart was a tumult of confusion. He could reconcile the inexplicable escape, even the vanishing of the mental hospital, but the sudden disappearance of the spectral beings from the streets, that was something he couldn't come to terms with. For Fang Xiu, it wasn't just about losing their eerie presence, it was about justice denied. The ghosts couldn't simply fade away, they had to face their fate. With a surge of determination, Fang Xiu raced home with reckless abandon. Beside him, Xiao Hao struggled to keep pace but was soon left behind. As Fang Xiu raced onward, his mind churned with frantic denial, refusing to accept the disappearance of the ghosts. "Especially my dear wife," he muttered desperately, "you shall meet your end only by my hand." After a frantic taxi ride, Fang Xiu impatiently directed the driver straight to his rental house. As the taxi pulled up to the gate of Fang Xiu's building, he abruptly sprinted out like a cheetah, neglecting to pay the driver. The driver's expression registered surprise as Fang Xiu dashed away so swiftly that he vanished in an instant. Fang Xiu ran tirelessly, frustration mounting with each step, only to find his building utterly ordinary, devoid of any hint of the supernatural. This disappointment only added to his growing sense of frustration. Fang Xiu burst into his house, his demeanor wild and frantic. "Wife! Where are you? Show yourself!" His voice echoed through the empty rooms as he searched desperately. Living room, bedroom, even the toilet, no trace of his wife could be found. Overwhelmed by despair, Fang Xiu collapsed, his mind reeling. "She can't disappear. Everyone else might vanish, but not her. How can I go on without you?" he cried out, his anguish palpable. In his turmoil, he couldn't shake the thought, she killed him 18 times. How could she vanish, denying him the chance for revenge? The following day found Fang Xiu lying on his bed, his eyes devoid of expression, as if his very soul had fled, fixated on the blank expanse of the ceiling. With the ghosts banished, his consuming hatred now seemed aimless. What purpose remained in his existence? Suddenly, the shrill ring of his phone shattered the silence, jolting Fang Xiu from his stupor. "Brother Xiu, turn on the news." Xiao Hao's voice came through the receiver, laden with urgency. But Fang Xiu remained unresponsive, lost in his own thoughts. Undeterred, Xiao Hao persisted. "Brother Xiu, they're reporting that Bailu Academy is engulfed in flames." At the mention of Bailu Academy, a flicker of life returned to Fang Xiu's eyes. With a newfound sense of purpose, he reached for his mobile phone to check the news. The first news that flashed across his screen left Fang Xiu stunned. Yesterday at 1949, a major fire accident occurred in the sales office of Bailu Academy in the development zone of Luteng City, and the burned area was about 1,000 square meters. The fire rescue was carried out immediately after receiving the report, and the fire was extinguished at 2200 hours. According to statistics, the accident caused 11 deaths. After absorbing the report, Fang Xiu couldn't contain the surge of suppressed excitement bubbling within him. "It's magnificent, truly magnificent. I knew they hadn't vanished, they were merely playing a game of hide and seek with me." His elation stemmed from the realization that the bizarre occurrences hadn't ceased, and the ghosts hadn't vanished. Could there be anything more gratifying than this revelation? Just then, a notification chimed on his WeChat. It was a message from the work group of the sales office. To Fang Xiu's surprise, the sender of the persistent messages turned out to be manager Wu Dehai. "Fang Xiu, why aren't you coming to work?" The messages flooded in repeatedly. Witnessing this peculiar scenario, Fang Xiu couldn't help but burst into laughter. The deceased Wu Dehai was now urging him to report to work? How intriguing, truly fascinating, Fang Xiu chuckled to himself. A departed soul beckoning me to the office? Quite the spectacle. It dawned on Fang Xiu that after Wu Dehai's demise, he had become a ghost. For the first time in his life, Fang Xiu found himself eager to return to work. However, he refrained from replying in the group chat, intrigued by the possibilities that Wu Dehai could bring to him. As Fang Xiu remained silent, the incessant chimes of his phone notifications grew increasingly intense. In the culmination of this bizarre exchange, a chilling message appeared. "Do you think I can't reach you if you don't reply?" Sent by Wu Dehai. As Fang Xiu gazed at his phone screen, he was met with a disturbing sight, bloody characters strewn across the display, an ominous message forming before his eyes. Slowly, the blood-soaked letters coalesced, coming together to form a chilling sentence. The blood on the screen began to simmer, bubbling like boiling water. Gradually, an eyeball emerged from the crimson liquid, protruding from the phone screen and fixing its unsettling gaze upon Fang Xiu. "Fang Xiu, I see you," came the haunting voice of Wu Dehai, emanating from the grotesque eye. The bizarre scene would have unnerved most, yet Fang Xiu remained strangely composed. After a brief contemplation, he calmly inquired, "When will my commission be paid?" There was a fleeting moment of surprise in the eyeball's gaze, evidently not expecting such a response. "You will receive it as soon as you come to work," the eyeball replied. "Good," Fang Xiu nodded. Without hesitation, Fang Xiu reached out abruptly, seizing the bloodshot eyeball and plucking it from the phone screen like unwanted weeds. "Sorry, but I only have this mobile phone. Please don't ruin it," he stated firmly. The eyeball emitted a plaintive wail before dissipating into thin air, like a bubble bursting. Fang Xiu glanced at his empty hands, devoid of eyeballs or blood. Could it have been a hallucination? He pondered aloud. Things are certainly becoming more intriguing. Let's head to work and see what the ghosts have in store, he decided resolutely. With that, Fang Xiu embarked once again, making his way to Bailu Academy. Upon arrival, Fang Xiu was taken aback to find the entire sales office of Bailu Academy burnt and charred. It appeared to have endured a devastating fire, with caution tape cordoning off the area. Disregarding the warning, Fang Xiu stepped past the barricade and entered the sales office. As he crossed the threshold, the scene before him underwent a miraculous transformation. Fang Xiu found himself back in the familiar surroundings of the sales office, but the once familiar space now lay charred and stained with blackened remnants. Despite the destruction, all his former colleagues were present, including Li Feifei, who had long since passed away. Upon seeing Fang Xiu, Li Feifei rushed towards him, remarking on his early arrival. Fang Xiu, seemingly unable to resist the temptation, stepped forward and squeezed Li Feifei's warm, plump, and elastic breast. "Is that real?" he questioned. Putting her hand on her blushed face, Li Feifei smiled. "I hate that," she admitted softly. Suddenly, Fang Xiu pushed Li Feifei aside and strode purposefully towards the second floor. Once on the second floor, he encountered Zhao Hao hurrying towards him. "Brother Xiu, were you also compelled to come to work?" Zhao Hao inquired. "No, I chose to come. What about Wu Dehai?" Fang Xiu replied, his tone resolute. Zhao Hao paused for a moment, then realization dawned on him. "He's in the office," he responded. With a nod, Fang Xiu continued on his path, determined to find Wu Dehai. As he passed through the office area, he noticed that his deceased colleagues were diligently working at their stations, just as they had before. Just as Fang Xiu was about to enter Wu Dehai's office, the man himself emerged, his expression immediately souring upon seeing Fang Xiu. "Fang Xiu, why are you here? I fired you in the group chat, didn't you see my messages?" Wu Dehai barked, his voice laced with irritation. "When will my commission be paid?" Fang Xiu's calm retort cut through Wu Dehai's tirade. Wu Dehai snorted derisively. "Commission? You still have the audacity to ask for a commission with your work ethic," he began, his words dripping with disdain. "You're still repulsive even in death," Fang Xiu interjected, his voice steady and unwavering. "What are you talking about? Who's dead here? Can't you speak like a decent human being for once?" Wu Dehai exploded in anger. His loud outburst attracted the attention of colleagues throughout the entire office area, who now watched the scene unfold with avid curiosity. The room fell into a stunned silence as a silver glint sliced through the air. Before the horrified onlookers, a gleaming scalpel pierced straight into Wu Dehai's thick neck. And grasping the handle of the scalpel firmly was Fang Xiu. Fang Xiu's calm gaze locked with Wu Dehai's enraged eyes as he uttered calmly, "Aren't you dead now?" Fang Xiu swiftly withdrew the scalpel as Wu Dehai's bulky form crumpled to the ground. In the eerie stillness that followed, Fang Xiu noticed his colleagues frozen in place, their movements halted as if they were trapped in a trance-like state, their faces drained of color, even Zhao Hao appeared unnaturally pale. Then, in an instant, their bodies began to contort grotesquely, their necks and spines twisting into unnatural angles. Muscles rippled and bulged beneath their skin as if boiling beneath the surface. Are they transforming? Fang Xiu muttered to himself, realizing he couldn't simply stand by and let it happen. With determination coursing through him, Fang Xiu sprang into action, his movements swift and precise as he darted towards the crowd. One by one, his silver scalpel flashed, slicing through the air with deadly accuracy. In a matter of seconds, Fang Xiu had carved a path through the entire office area, leaving a trail of severed necks in his wake. In a flash, the corpses began to fade away, and the entire sales office shattered like a fragmented mirror, revealing the escape passage of the mental hospital beyond. Beside Fang Xiu, Zhao Hao and the others collapsed to the ground, writhing in agony. Suddenly, in the darkness, a cluster of scarlet eyes locked onto Fang Xiu. These peculiar eyes lacked a defined shape, ensconced within a swirling cloud of amorphous black smoke. A dream? It seems this is your doing, Fang Xiu remarked calmly, unperturbed by the unsettling sight before him. A hoarse and chilling voice emanated from the mysterious eyes. How did you come to realize that you were in a dream? The monstrous figure inquired. Fang Xiu's response was measured. Your illusions are remarkably lifelike, and your insight into human nature is keen. However, it appears you lack understanding of silicone. He proceeded to explain how silicone feels distinct from natural flesh, drawing from his previous knowledge that Fei Fei's breasts were augmented with silicone. Silicone? The monstrous eyes seemed puzzled by the concept. It then questioned, why do you exhibit no fear? Fang Xiu let out a derisive snort. It appears your method of dispatching victims relies heavily on instilling fear. In your illusion, the more one succumbs to fear, the swifter their demise. Moreover, the absurdity of a deceased individual urging me to return to work made it abundantly clear that it was all an illusion. He conveyed to the monster that its deliberate orchestration of bizarre and unsettling events served as a catalyst, reigniting his will to live. This renewed sense of purpose allowed him to see through the illusion and break free. The monster remained silent, its gaze fixed on Fang Xiu with unwavering intensity, as if etching his visage into memory. In the following moment, the monster began to gradually fade away, its parting words echoing a promise to remember Fang Xiu. As Fang Xiu contemplated, he couldn't shake the notion that this particular entity held the power to manipulate dreams, likely responsible for driving away the Doctor Ghost. It dawned on him that perhaps the Doctor was among the weakest of the ghosts haunting the mental hospital. Looking back, Fang Xiu saw Zhao Hao suffocating, his own hands clenched around his throat, veins bulging, and his eyes turning white. Standing by his only true friend, Fang Xiu pondered the sole method to rescue him. Suddenly, Fang Xiu retrieved a scalpel and plunged it into his own neck. As his consciousness faded, he succumbed to darkness. At the sign indicating a safe passage, his colleagues gazed upon it, their faces registering surprise. This time, Fang Xiu bypassed the opportunity to rest and replenish his spirituality. Without hesitation, he proceeded through the door ahead, recognizing that the ghost's ability was to manipulate dreams. To escape this haunted realm, staying awake seemed the wisest course of action. As the door to the safe passage swung open, everyone hurried inside. Emerging on the other side, they found themselves once again outside Bailu Academy. Aware that it was another dream, Fang Xiu wasted no time in stabbing himself in the neck. It dawned on him that Zhao Hao could only rely on himself to navigate this challenge. By conquering his fears, survival became attainable. At this, Fang Xiu turned to Zhao Hao and the others, issuing a warning. Behind this door lurks a monster capable of inducing hallucinations. Terrifying visions will manifest, deceiving you into believing you've escaped the ghost's domain. But it's all an illusion. To break free, you must confront your fears. In this illusion, the more you succumb to fear, the swifter your demise. Addressing Zhao Hao specifically, Fang Xiu continued, remember, everything you witness is false. Don't yield to fear. The key to survival lies in conquering your apprehensions. Then, with a mischievous grin, he added, and if you encounter Li Fei in the illusion, you can touch her. The sensation of fake breasts differs from the real ones. Zhao Hao was momentarily taken aback, his face flushing as he stammered, but I've never really touched that part of a woman before.